Food Rebels. This is the podcast that brings you brands, chefs and live on-air tastings. A show that is dedicated to the more rebellious side of the food world, where we celebrate the people who have challenged the status quo. AJ is still away this week. She's getting closer and closer to finishing her MBA, so we wish her all the luck on her final dissertation for that. So you have me, the producer of Food Rebels, Georgie Parsons, and back in co-hosting with me today is Sam Beeny. Hello.
Hello, I'm so excited for this episode. I can smell the wine and I'm very excited.
Yes, if you love wine, this is the episode for you because we've got two wine experts on the show today producing wine from home and away. So ready to tell us their stories. I'd love to welcome Peter Constable from Warehorne Vineyard. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Georgie.
And Tom Holt from Paso-Primero.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Wine. We all love wine, don't we?
Wine.
Love wine. And Peter has come on to tell us really about red wine that is grown in the UK, because this is a underutilized and known product. So, Peter, tell us about the red wine industry in the UK.
Okay, so the UK doesn't produce red wine, right? Actually, 4.5% of UK production is red wine, but it's
4.5%. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
It's very small.
Yeah.
And there are huge opportunities, but the problem in the UK is the climate. Even with global warming, the traditional varieties like Pinot Noir struggle to ripen in a bad year.
Okay.
You get a really good Pinot Noir in a good year. However, there is now a revolutionary new vine from Switzerland called Divico. And that was produced in Switzerland for the Swiss climate to produce a full-bodied red wine. And we now have it in the UK. And I've got the largest plantation. It's unbelievable. People, well, you haven't tasted it yet, but
No.
I'll be interested in your comments.
So let's go back a little bit on the history of the UK wine. So we started with a sparkling. Was that really where we started in at, and then a white, and then how has it kind of developed?
Yeah, very much so. And the UK is absolutely brilliant at producing sparkling wine. 2/3 of the wine that we produce is sparkling. We're so good that actually the French get really annoyed with us because we beat them in blind tasting competitions.
Yeah.
We beat the best French champagne houses in blind tasting competitions. My mission is to do that with red wine as well.
Okay.
I love that.
And so did you start out with a sparkling? Was that your route in, or what did you start with?
No, we're very young. We planted in 2020. Traditional method sparkling takes 3 years to produce, so we're not close to issuing one yet. We have got a sparkling wine, but it's developed using the Charmat method, which is the same way in which Prosecco is made, where it's the second ferment is in a tank, in a pressurized tank, and then it's bottled under pressure. That's the only way that we could get some sparkling wine being so young, so early.
Oh, I see. So before having to wait for the 3 years, this is the way around it. Okay.
That is the way around it. Yeah.
So you are based in Kent, which is where a lot of the vineyards are based. And you started by planting how many? What are we talking about? How many?
2020, we planted 15,000 vines.
Wow. Okay.
2021, 2,000. 2022, 8,000.
Right. Okay. So that's a lot of vines.
Yes, absolutely.
How long did it take you to plant all those?
Believe it or not, the 15,000 were planted in a day.
Oh, wow.
And it took half a day to plant the 8,000 using a planting machine.
Right. Amazing. And did you have a history of wine before you got into this?
No, absolutely not. We live in an oast house, typical Kent oast house.
Yeah.
We converted that 20 years ago, bought as a derelict oast from the landowner. We became good friends and we said to her, look, if ever you're selling this land, could we have first refusal?
Yeah.
And in 2019, she said, yeah, I'm ready to sell.
So I guess that's the inspiration for the logo, the Oast House.
Absolutely. We wanted something which was quintessentially Kent and East Sussex, and that's where the oast houses are.
So you decided, I'm going to buy this land and I'm going to turn it into wine.
Yeah, but I didn't want to follow the trend.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't want to just sell sparkling wine.
Fine. Okay.
You wanted to find that USP, what's going to make
Absolutely,
you different.
yeah. So having done a little bit of research, I came across this Divico vine. It was being trialled at East Malling at the NIAB Research Centre with some excellent results. So the first year I was only able to order 300. They're very difficult to get hold of. The second year I tried to order again and I couldn't get any. So actually the following year I just thought, well, I'm going to contact the nursery in Switzerland directly. I'll import them myself. And that's what I did.
Amazing. Gosh, okay. So red wine, let's talk about how it's made.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's picked.
Yeah.
Then it's
By
put in.
who? By how are you picking? Are you a machine, or are you hand picking, or how is this?
We pick majority by hand.
Okay.
We did experiment a little bit last year with some machine harvested fruit.
And how did that work?
Actually, it worked very well. It's a bit rough on the vines, and so they're a bit young and tender. So they had a bit of a bashing because it literally vibrates the grapes from the vine.
Oh, I see. So the ones that are ripe will fall off, and the other ones won't.
Well, they're all ripe by that point,
Yeah.
pretty much. But yes, if they're not ripe, then they won't fall off.
So pick the grapes.
Yes.
even,
So
and
once they're picked, we will be making our own wine in a couple of years' time. But at the moment, we're using an established winery in Kent. So it was taken to the winery. At that point, it was destemmed and crushed, and it's put in a stainless steel tank.
Okay.
And yeast is added, and then it's fermented on the skins for 3 or 4 weeks. Before then, at that point, the juice is then pressed out or drained off and then
bottled.
Not straight away.
Oh, missing a step.
It's left to mature in the tank.
Yeah.
And then probably about 4 or 5 months later, it's bottled.
Okay.
So we have 3 different types of red wine here on the table.
Yeah.
So do you want to explain to us the differences as we taste them and what we might experience and the different kind of processes they go through?
Yes. Well, I can give you an overall view now. So I suggest the first wine we taste would be our Pinot Noir.
Okay. So this is the lightest
Yes,
looking
it
one
is.
that we've got on the table here.
It's a typical Kent Pinot Noir, which is very light and very fruity.
Oh yeah, that is really fruity. That's lovely.
And you can drink it even slightly chilled.
Yes.
In fact, some people prefer it slightly chilled.
I love a chilled red wine.
Yeah.
That's one of my-
Do you?
Yeah,
That's quite a confession here.
It's a drum I'm willing to bang. Definitely.
No, I do really like a chilled red wine. So yeah.
We drink our reds too warm and our whites too cold.
Cold. Yes,
Yeah.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those reds in the fridge a little bit before you drink. Perfect.
So the Pinot Noir. So that is a grape variety that's kind of
Yes,
quite
we-
well established.
We've also got a lot of Pinot Noir. In fact, 84% of our vines will produce red wine.
Oh, okay.
So, but Pinot Noir tends to vineyards produce Pinot Noir as a red wine only on a good year, as a rule. So
And then a bad year, what do they do with the?
it goes into sparkling.
Ah, okay. Gosh,
Yeah.
I
So
not
you
know
can
that.
you can make white wine with a red grape. In fact, the traditional sparkling blend is typically 40 or 50% Pinot Noir,
Wow, yeah.
40 or 50% Chardonnay, and 10 to 15% Pinot Meunier.
Gosh, so interesting.
It's within those kind of
Yeah.
range. So all you do is you would crush the red grape and you get a clear juice from it, and that's what goes into
Into the
champagne
champagne. Okay, or sparkling wine.
or sparkling wine, as it may.
So on this
Amazing.
red wine journey, where do we go next?
Our next wine is a blend actually between Pinot Noir and this new grape Divico.
So this is the reserve.
Yes, so this is our reserve. And actually, this is a tank sample because our reserve last year was so successful, it sold out. But it's coming into stock in literally about a week's time.
That's really nice. I like that. I really
It's
like
really good.
It's still very fruity, but more
Yeah.
tannin. to
Yes,
it.
it definitely got more tannins to it. You can feel that. So with the red wine and our unpredictable weather, I mean, how does that go together? I mean, because I'm presuming things like hailstorms are not great.
Yeah,
You know.
the Chablis region got hit really badly by hailstorms actually this year, and there was some hail
Yes.
recently,
Yeah.
and but our vines were not affected
Nice.
because they hadn't got the fruit set on the vines, so it was
were
okay.
So you don't have to worry too much about the changeable weather.
Frost is still a big issue in the UK.
I suppose because also we have quite late frost as well, don't we?
Yeah, I mean we were very fortunate this year. I think we're out of the danger of frost. We didn't have to take any frost precautions, but literally, one evening this year, we put out bonfires around or laid out
is
in
that how you
preparation.
do that?
Had the temperature
I
drop below zero.
see.
It actually went down to 0.6, but we
You
had
then
a
have to-
sleepless night whilst we monitored it.
I can imagine.
I mean, winemaking does get this romantic notion, and it's a very exciting industry to be in, but we are ostensibly farmers.
Yeah.
And so we are all at the behest of Mother Nature, what happens throughout the growing season. All of that influences style. And, you know, in the UK, it's a much more marginal climate. So those issues are, you know, they creep into the peak points of vine growth. For us in Spain, we've just gone through some very nasty frosts and hail, which were unseasonable, and because they started growing earlier, that becomes a big risk. And making wine is not an easy thing to do. No. And
I think farming in general just seems like a really difficult thing to do.
It's just every glass you have is a survivor, right? That's what you've got to see it as. There's more to it than just the romance and the pretty pictures. There's a lot into it.
Just finishing up on this last one. So this is the Divico. So this is the new kind of stable vine that you've kind of found and
absolutely
harvesting.
Well, Divico is amazing in many respects. First of all, it's totally resistant to the fungal diseases which affect the traditional French vines. Basically, you really don't have to spray them, which is amazing. So sustainability wise, I mean, it's really good because you're cutting back on costs, but you're cutting back on chemicals because you don't have to spray them. It's also extremely heavy cropper. So our Divico last year, we were getting 5 kilos of vine of fruit, which is 4 bottles basically per vine. So it's amazingly productive. Last year was also a very poor year for ripening. It was a brilliant year for the quantity of fruit. But the fruit had difficulty in ripening. Yes, so for 2 months it was really cold and dull and hardly any sunshine, which made it very difficult for red grapes in particular to ripen.
But you still managed to, and
this is proof of the pudding. Yeah, this Divico ripens superbly, even in a bad year. So I can produce it year on year.
It's got a kind of smoky vibe to it.
It's a really strong blackcurrant characteristic, isn't it?
It's the colour's quite deep, isn't it? Rather quite deep compared with the other ones. Got good depth.
Yeah.
The taste.
I mean, people that see the colour say, I can't believe that it's made in the UK. In fact, I refuse to believe it's made in the UK.
Well, we've talked about your reds, but you also do a rosé and a white wine, don't you, as well?
Yes, actually, our rosé is made using the Sonia method. And actually, that helped our Pinot Noir, because when we harvested our Pinot Noir, it was, as I said before, crushed and put into a tank. And then after 24 hours, some of the colour had naturally come out, some of the tannins. And at that point, we took the juice out of the tank to make our rosé and blended it with our Chardonnay and Pinot Gris, which gave it some very interesting characteristics.
So fascinating. I mean, I love learning about all these things, all these different techniques, how things come about and everything. It's totally fascinating. And I will keep an eye out for your red wine hitting.
But we're not only red, we also do a Chardonnay and a Pinot Gris as well.
And where can we buy these? Where are you?
You can buy it online at warehornevineyard.co.uk.
And can you come and visit your vineyard?
You can indeed, yes. We're open currently at the weekends for tours and tastings.
Yeah.
We're having a new barn built, which has got panoramic views over the vineyard as a new tasting room. And as soon as that's open, we'll be open in the weekdays as well.
Perfect. That sounds wonderful. Gosh, we'll have to make a visit to go and see it.
You will indeed.
Yeah. So, Tom, you are based in the UK, but you don't produce your wine in the UK. So tell us about your wine.
Where do we begin? So I live in Shrewsbury. That's where I came down from today. But I make my wines in the Pyrenees in northern Spain, a little region called Somontano, about 2 hours in from Barcelona, south of France. Basically, had to beg, steal and borrow my way into the wine trades. Been in the trade for about 18 years now. Wow. Started off selling it and then progressed to learning how to make it and travelled the world learning how to make wine so I could one day make my own wines in my own way, my own style and with my own label.
And you certainly have, because the label, when you see the bottles, guys, literally it's like a silhouette, an orange silhouette.
Well, I bought my most rebellious wines. I thought that would be in keeping with what we're doing today.
So why Spain? What happened? Did all the stars align and everything worked out in Spain? But what, was that where you were looking to produce?
Again, we're trying to condense 18 years into a 30-minute podcast. But I'd done a couple of years in New Zealand, done 4 years in Canada, always making wines for other people, always wanting to make wine in the old world. I had made wine in the UK, but felt that I would prefer to be on the continent. And this was pre-2016, so this was a viable option for me at the time. We've since gone through some horrendous situations since we launched. It was between Italy, France and Spain. Spain was the calling. I had a GCSE in Spanish. I knew the country, knew the lifestyle. And that was it. We had the skills. Me and my wife knew that we could make wine. We'd done that for other people. And we just went looking for somewhere that we could make our own. And so we literally drove down to Spain in a van with a tent and a couple of camp chairs and a gas stove and went knocking on doors looking for someone who believed our passion and engaged with our story and was willing to let us use their kit, use their infrastructure, make our wines. And
so they had all the vineyards already.
Yep.
So were you going in saying, okay, what grapes have you got? Okay, I'm happy to work with that one. Or, how did it kind of...
I wish it was that easy.
I know, I'm crikey,
we knew which region we wanted to target.
Yeah.
So we set out to that region and we were knocking on doors. And, we'd made wine in the new world where everyone's connected, everyone's friends, everyone knows each other. And if you want to make wines, you can't do that here, but go and talk to Jim down there or whoever. In Spain, it's... you're talking about people that are 5th, 6th, 7th generation winemakers. They don't employ outsiders because they just have the family do it, and they've been doing this for so long. There's no cohesion between the wineries. There's 2 wineries down the road from us in Spain that don't get on because their parents fell out. It's just generational beef going on. But it meant that we were knocking on doors. People thought we were lunatics. People thought we were absolutely mad. And we were getting nowhere. And then in the plot contrivance of my Hollywood movie that's going to test the viewer's patience, we had one meeting left. We were packed up, ready to leave Somontano, thinking we're going to have to go to a different region. Walked through the door of this winery and their winemaker sat down with us for an hour's meeting. That hour meeting turned into 8 hours, a long lunch, multiple wines. And they saw what we wanted to do. And they said, well, we think... there's an opportunity for you to do that here. Make your first wine, and if you can sell it, you can come back next harvest. That first year, we made 8,000 bottles of that wine, sold out within 6 months. Wow. Went back. They thought they'd never see us again. And they were like, oh, crikey, we're going to have to take these guys a bit more seriously. And that was 8-9 years ago. And now we make wines together. There's no separation in the cellar. It's all our wines together. They're collaboration wines. We collaborate on how the vines are grown. We collaborate on the way the wines are made in the cellar. I do all the production myself, but have the freedom to be in the UK to come and talk to you lovely people and promote it as far as we can. So
amazing. So what grapes are you working with?
All sorts. The thing that makes us slightly rebellious at the moment is we started with very commercial international varieties because we had to have a business. We had to have wines that were marketable and we could sell. And so we worked with Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon and Syrah and Chardonnay, things like this. And the house wines are all still using international varieties, the easy appealing table wines, the sort of wines you drink every day, right? But as the process has developed, we've realised that climate change is a trend. It's not an anomaly. Things are getting hotter and drier, and it's getting harder to farm those grapes. We've got Merlots coming in at 16, 17% alcohol. I mean, these are not drinkable wines. And we noticed that indigenous varieties are thriving. And so we've got Moristel, Paraletta, and that's what we're going to work on with the tasting later on. But harnessing those indigenous varieties, things no one's ever heard of, gives us natural freshness, natural vibrancy, and we're rescuing things that are nearly going extinct.
Amazing. Well, let's get tasting. So which one are we going to try first?
I know there's a rosé drinker at the table, so we're going to start with our rosé. And it is a rebellious rosé because we tried to make a rosé in 17 and 18, and we tried to make the classic Instagram Provence rosé that everyone thinks is the best rosé out there. And we tried it and we failed miserably. And what we realised is we shouldn't try and shoehorn a wine style into our region. We should make the wines that are true to us, true to our region, and true to the grapes we have. That's why we ended up with a Rosado, which is more akin to a red wine than a white wine, but it's a rosé with structure and power and weight. Still got all the fun beauty of strawberry fruits and cherry fruits and all the fun things that you want from a glass of rosé. But it's got really lovely structure and weight and power to it as well. And it makes it a food rosé.
So,
So this is not a quaffing rosé. This is a rosé to drink with food.
Well, rosé suffers from seasonality, right? People love it when the sun comes out, and it also suffers in the UK from being a barbecue wine. Everyone reaches for the rosé when the barbecues come out, and we're not the best barbecuing country in the world.
I did that at the weekend, yeah.
You know, those hockey puck burgers and the charred sausages, you know, they're big, robust flavours, and the whispering angels of this world will disappear in that world. This rosé will work and carry beautifully. It's got a slight natural sweetness to it. It's actually bone dry, but the bright ripeness of the fruit is what makes it really exciting and works with those barbecue flavours. So much so that it's best served with a bag of bacon frazzles.
Okay.
Wine pairing heaven.
Yeah, that's such a big thing, wasn't it, last year, crisps and wine?
Yeah.
But,
Crisps and wine, yes.
it really
Yeah.
The colour, though, of this wine, just so obviously you can't see this, it's very pinky. It's like a strawberry coloured wine. It's not like a blushy
Absolutely.
wine. And it's so easy to drink. It really, really is.
Oh, thank you very much.
Very good.
Yeah.
Seal of approval.
Oh, cheers.
We should have bought some crisps to try it with.
I did, but I didn't think the sound quality was going to work. You know, no one wants to hear me chowing down on frazzles.
We can try it afterwards and let everyone know what it tastes like. So that's your rosé, which is, I love the branding as well. This ladder with is there a reason around the?
There's reasons behind everything. The name came first, so we kept tipping around this idea of first step. So Paso-Primero is a slight bastardization of first step, so it should be Primero Paso, but we thought Paso-Primero sounded better to the English ear.
Okay.
We also knew that when you go to a restaurant and order a wine, you never remember what it's called, but you remember what it looked like. So we wanted something on the front that people could remember.
Yep.
First step to ladder doesn't take a great cerebral leap, so that's why the ladder's there, and people do now know it as the ladder wine, so that the marketing plan worked.
Nice.
And there's a little wren on the first step because the ladder looked a little bit lost, and that's a wren that you can find in Shrewsbury, where me and my wife are both from, and stops in Somontano on its migration down to Africa. So it's a little nod to where we've come from, to where we've gone. There's a story behind it.
There is, isn't there? My
love
goodness.
that.
So the other wine that you've brought in for us to taste is a red. And is this your new range of?
This is brand new, limited edition, so exclusive to you guys. Hopefully there will be a Food Rebels case available which will feature this wine. Very excited about this wine.
And there's something unique about the bottle, isn't there?
There is a wonderful label on the front that my wife designed. So I'm nervous to say how much I like it because it is my own face, but it also glows in the dark.
Now, I love this. Is this, you're going down into your cellar, the light's gone, you can't see anything, and this is going to guide you?
Well, you joke, but the white one's very bright and scared the bejesus out of me quite recently. There's nothing like seeing your own face reflected back to you.
I love it. You can find the wine even in a blackout. So
That's amazing. How do you get the label on the bottle? Does it go through a labelling?
No, that is hand labelled.
Oh, wow.
My wife is a dab hand with a cricket machine, and she cuts them all out. The lino cut, hand applied.
Oh my
And how many bottles do you do?
So at the moment, these are in the hundreds, not the thousands. But we're as they grow in success, these are probably going to be the only batch with this particular.
Well, so get it in quick.
The future ones will have my face and it will glow in the dark, but it'll be less intricate. Let's put it that way.
You've been linked with Shrewsbury Football Club. So tell me about that.
I am the official winemaker for Shrewsbury Town Football Club.
I love that.
There's not many people making wine in Shropshire. There's not many people that have taken the journey that me and my wife have done. So we got covered in the local press quite a bit when we first launched our wine 8 years ago. And we were on the local radio station, and the chairman of the football club heard me talking about it and thought, I'd like to meet this chap. He didn't know at the time that I'd been a season ticket holder of the club since I was 4.
My goodness.
Avid Shrewsbury Town fan, and he called me in to talk about it, and we ended up concocting a Shrewsbury Town wine. And I mean, some people would say that it was payment, other people would say it's pain, but I get to sit in the posh seats in return for making that wine, and I get to go and watch them actually was in the Royal Box at Wembley when we got to the playoffs a few years ago.
Wow.
So it's worked out brilliantly for me. I was never a good footballer. I'm a decent winemaker, and that is the best path I could take. It's made me no money.
Well, it's two passions colliding, isn't it? And that's what. That's
I don't think there's many League One clubs who've got their own winemaker.
Can we come and visit you in Spain? And then do you do tours? How is?
Yeah, you can come and see us. I mean, it's off the beaten track, right? I always say there's an area around airports in Spain. If you get beyond that, then no one comes to you. A lot of Belgian bird watchers come to our part of Spain. But the winery is open. We're all singing, all dancing. You just have to get in touch with us and come and find us. That's the trick.
And what do you find when you get there?
Oh, well, you find an amazing team of people who are not polished tour guides, but are amazing hosts.
So is there somewhere to stay and accommodation and stuff?
No, nothing. We're not that fancy like that, but we'll show you a good time. With the people who run the winery own a couple of bars, so we can look after you.
Nice.
And also, I read that you've brought in new techniques to harvest your grapes. We've heard about hand harvesting and with machine. How is it that you harvest your grapes?
So we're hand harvesting the grapes. The things that we're doing differently are within the cellar itself. So we use a lot of concrete tanks. Slightly unusual vessel. Most people are in stainless steel or oak barrels. Mm-hmm. We're using concrete tanks, and what that means is that we can do stem contact on our red. So instead of taking the grapes off the stems, we put whole bunches in the tanks, and that means I get to jump in those tanks in my pants and press those grapes with my feet. And about 30% of the wine you've just drunk has experienced that process. So you're still standing and you're still smiling.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I don't know either. I'm just having these images of just pants.
You're having
it, and oh god,
you're having the images. Imagine the poor people working with you.
Can you put that on TikTok, please?
Debatable.
So, what does the concrete aspect of it bring to this
so it mirrors the maturation of an oak barrel in allowing some oxygenation. It maintains temperature, but it doesn't add any flavour. So it allows the grape flavours to develop without adding anything else. Oak barrels are brilliant vessels, but they do add quite a lot of flavour to the wines. As we're moving to fresher, lighter styles of wines, we want to move away from those oak flavours. Yeah. And the concrete tanks just gives us a perfect vessel to do that in.
So it just gives you a bit more control over the flavour.
Absolutely. It means we don't have to use huge amounts of cooling, which in Spain is, a lot of people need a lot of cooling, and that's very expensive and bad for the environment and all the rest of it. Concrete is not an ideal material to start off with, but they're going to be there for 100 years or more, and we use them for all our wines, and they improve the quality of the finished product without all those nasty oak flavours.
How long do you leave it on the skins?
Yeah, this is the other key part of our production, where we're on the stems and fermenting for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then we top the tank up. So during fermentation, the skins rise and everything. You have to have a cap management program where things get pushed down. After the fermentation is finished, we actually top the tank rather than drain it, and we hold it in tank for about 3-4 months afterwards. So we're getting loads of structure, loads of character out of the skins and the stems, because they're in for about 12 weeks longer than they would do normally in other people's wineries. And that gives us a lighter, fresher style of wine, but with the body, the structure and the tannins.
Yeah, I mean, some wineries, particularly in the south of France, will do what's called a carbonic maceration, is where you're not crushing all of the grapes and you're letting them
absolutely
ferment on the skins. Is that what you're doing?
We mirror that. That's the flavour profile. I mean, we're not exclusively carbonic maceration. We're going into some quite technical stuff now.
I was going to say, I feel like I've got a little bit lost.
I'm going to carry on drinking.
2 glasses.
Continue.
The winemakers are going to go and talk and have a chat.
I think, sadly, we've come to the end. I'm going to have to stop you there. You guys afterwards, please carry on with the in-depth discussion. But quickly, Tom, you said you're going to put together a Food Rebels case.
Yeah, hopefully, and we'll put some links up, and it'll be something specific just for the Food Rebels audience.
Amazing. Sadly, we've come to the end of the time of our show, but a big thank you to Peter Constable from Warehorne Vineyard and Tom Holt from Paso-Primero. Thank you for coming on the show. You've been listening to Food Rebels, which is available on radio stations around the UK. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Audible. Please remember to subscribe and to rate us 5 stars, hopefully, as it makes a huge difference to our podcast. We are also on Instagram at food_rebels_. So give us a follow, and if you'd like to come on the show, send us a DM. Thank you very much. Bye.